We live in an environment completely alien to our evolutionary history. For the first time, human beings have unlimited, instant access to highly engineered, high-potency pleasure, from the ultra-processed food we eat to the endless scroll of our screens. You would logically assume that this era of complete physical abundance would make us the happiest humans to ever live, but the data tells a different story. Look at this chart showing the average daily minutes adults in the US spend with digital media. It climbs steadily year over year, pushing past 8 hours a day. And here is a graph comparing a country's wealth with its mental health. As we climb the wealth scale from poorer nations to richer ones, rates of anxiety and depression rise right alongside it. Access to endless pleasure and rising psychological distress aren't just happening at the same time. They appear to be linked. To understand how, we have to look inside the brain's reward system. This diagram shows the reward circuit, where the brain processes motivation and desire. At the center of this circuit is dopamine, a neurotransmitter that acts as a universal currency for reward. Modern, highly engineered stimuli flood this circuit with massive, unnatural quantities of this chemical. A piece of chocolate creates a 55% spike in dopamine. Hard drugs like amphetamines can push that release to a staggering 1,000%. Dr. Anna Lembke, a psychiatrist at Stanford, models how the brain handles these massive chemical spikes using a simple metaphor. Think of it as a literal seesaw inside your head, with pleasure on one side and pain on the other. The mechanics of this balance, how it tips and how it compensates, explain why our modern environment is generating so much chronic distress. This illustration shows what happens when we engage in a highly rewarding activity, like gaming or scrolling social media. The brain releases dopamine, and the scale tips heavily down on the side of pleasure. But the brain is highly motivated to maintain homeostasis. It hates being off balance and will instantly react to level itself out. It does this through the opponent process mechanism. As seen in this diagram, the brain attempts to level the scale by aggressively adding equal, counteracting weight to the pain side. That weight on the pain side is the comedown. It is the physiological drop, the restlessness, and the sudden craving that inevitably follows every high. Every single spike in pleasure demands an immediate tax paid in pain. This creates a relentless cycle where we crave more of the stimulus just to fix the imbalance we created in the first place. So what happens when we live in a world where we constantly bombard our brains with high-potency triggers day after day? The brain physically adapts to survive the chemical overload. Look at these PET scans. On the left is a healthy brain, and on the right is a brain struggling with addiction. The active dopamine receptors, the bright red and yellow areas, are noticeably lower on the right as the brain reduces its own receptors. This physical loss of receptors alters our hedonic set point. As this illustration shows, the pain side of our internal scale becomes permanently heavier, dragging our baseline mood down with it. This new baseline is called the dopamine deficit state. In this condition, we now need to scroll, eat, or consume just to feel normal, and we experience profound anxiety the moment we stop. Chronic indulgence erodes our capacity for pleasure. It leaves the brain in a persistent state of dissatisfaction. If excess pleasure leads to chronic pain, we have to ask, can we intentionally reverse engineer this scale to heal our baseline happiness? The answer lies in a biological concept called hormesis. This is the practice of intentionally pursuing discomfort to trigger a positive neurological adaptation. You can initiate this response through intense physical exertion, fasting, or shocking the system with ice-cold water immersion. This graph shows how hormesis works. By choosing a painful stimulus first, the brain compensates by releasing dopamine afterward. Notice the curve. It leads to a gentle, sustained pleasure plateau without crashing into a deficit state. Enduring friction and discomfort serves as a path toward recalibrating the brain for long-term well-being. Digital media causes a sharp dopamine spike that vanishes rapidly. Physical effort earns a slow, stable release. Historically, seeking comfort kept us alive, but in a modern ecosystem of instant indulgence, that primitive desire is our greatest vulnerability. Achieving neurological freedom requires active resistance. It means unplugging from our devices, practicing digital fasting, and deliberately choosing friction over convenience. We have a choice in how we balance our internal scale. We can borrow cheap pleasure today and pay with pain tomorrow,
Or we can pay with pain up front to earn lasting peace. In an age of absolute indulgence, intentionally restoring the brain's delicate balance is the only sustainable way to thrive.